Welcome everyone for spending your lunchtime with me. This is Cynthia Klein and you're here for the webinar, Is My Teen Crazy or Am I? I want to give out a big thank you from your teenagers in your life. The reason I'm saying thank you from them is because if they knew what you were learning today, if they knew that because you're learning new strategies today that you were going to change and that these changes were going to improve their relationship, they would say thank you to you over and over again. So thank you so much for being here. Really, really appreciate it. So today, let me first start out by saying a little bit of the format. I'll be talking for about 30 minutes, and if you have any questions, just type them into the chat box there. And then after about 30 minutes, I'll go through and respond to some of your questions. Just tell you briefly about myself. I went to Berkeley, got my degree in psychology, but I knew I was always an educator. So that was the first part, the deepest part of me. So I used to be a school teacher. And then I went on to educate parents, of which I've been working with parents since 1994. You see on the pictures I'm also a wife. I was a wife and then I became a parent. And my daughter Jen is now 24 years old and in a very nice relationship that we're happy about. That was a challenge to get through life with her, but I will be sharing some of that during our webinar. So is my teen crazy or am I? That's what we're talking about today, is what can we actually do to not feel so crazy? So I'm actually going to be giving you an offer at the end. Want to let you know up front that I do offer free 20-minute coaching session that hopefully after this we'll talk and kind of help you apply what you've learned today. And then I'm also going to be offering you a promotion for my 7-week course that's starting the end of January. Give you a discount on that so you can continue. You know, half an hour is just not enough to continue working and growing. So I'll be offering that to you as well at the end. So let me tell you the 3 key learning points we're going to be working on today. The first one is for you to develop a vision of what you want the relationship to look like with your teenagers. So often we get stuck. Oh, it can never change. We're going to always be fighting. They're never going to cooperate. And we need to get beyond that and develop a vision, and I'll be sharing my vision with you. The second is to become an ally. To become an ally. And rather than an adversary, using soft power. And then the third one is we're going to talk about how do we eliminate wall building through open dialogue. Okay, so let's start with the first one, which is develop a vision of your relationship. When I was a teacher, before I was married and had my daughter, I was teaching 5th grade. And I remember one day standing there looking at the kids, and I was team teaching. I saw other teachers working with them, and thinking, what I want is a great relationship with a teenage daughter. Wow. I didn't have it with my mother. If there was some way to create that, that to me was the most difficult thing in the world because mothers and daughters have such a hard time. And because I knew what I wanted and I didn't have it. So that became a driving force in my life for me to grow and learn and change. Because I wanted that. And then I also wanted to have a marriage. And so those 2 things have compelled me forward in my life to grow and change. So I see raising my daughter and being married as an opportunity for personal growth. That's what it's about. So I really want to encourage you to embrace that concept. So often we can think as a parent, oh, my kid's doing this to me, or why did I even have them, or this is so difficult, and it is difficult. If we look at it, what can I learn? What can I learn about getting along with people better because I have to get along better with my children? And my daughter has said to me, Mom, aren't you glad I was so hard? Because that's made you a better parent educator. Because I do not have judgment about parents whatsoever when their teens do things such as smoking and drinking and sex and all the various things that they do, sneaking out and lying. I know that you are doing your best and that they are doing what they're doing and that you don't have control of them. So I don't look at any parent as, why is your kid like that and you could control them? I don't believe that's true at all. So let's start out with what your vision is. What do you want? What is your vision? What do you want in your life? Think about that for a minute. What would it sound like? Would there be yelling? Would there be more calmness? Would you have a daughter or a son that would actually keep the door open sometimes? Would you have a teenager that might even share? So when you learn how to approach, and I'm going to be telling you a little bit today how to approach a teen so they might open up. So when you say something of, wow, it sounds like it's been challenging for you today, that they're actually going to share something with you rather than say, leave me alone and you don't understand. What is your vision? That's important, to understand your vision. The second part is to become their ally with soft power. So often, there's adversarial relationships we set up, and they're them against us, and they feel that. They don't feel we're on their side. They feel that we're always trying to push them around and prod them and make them do things, and we don't understand them, and this wall gets built up there in between us and them. A huge wall. So our job, I believe, this is my approach, is that we're the adults, and it's our responsibility to learn how to get through that wall, to learn how to tear down the wall and build bridges. And I believe we can only do that as an ally. Now, mind you, as an ally, we're still setting limits. I'm not saying their friend. Notice that I'm not saying their friend. But an ally is more like I imagine myself standing next to my daughter, arm around her, and kind of leading her, trying to influence her. Not pushing from behind, not pulling from front, but being next to her and trying to guide her. And if she sticks her heels in hard, I can't guide her. So I have to learn how to be an ally so she will allow me to guide her at least some of the time. So I want to share a story. This is an Aesop's fable. It's called The North Wind and the Sun. The north wind bragged about how strong he was. But the sun argued that there's strength in gentleness. So the sun says, let's have a contest. Look down there. Do you see that man walking along the winding road with his coat on? Let's see who can take that coat off that man. The wind responded, oh, no problem. I can do that. I'm just going to force the coat off of him. So the wind began to blow. And he blew. And he blew. And he blew so hard that the birds were clinging to the branches. The air was full of dust and leaves. And the man was so cold that he only clung onto his coat even harder. Now, the sun came out from behind the clouds, and she started warming the air and the ground, And the man started getting warm. And she burned brighter and brighter and brighter, and it got so warm that the man unbuttoned his coat, took it off, and set it down on the ground, and he rested under a shady tree. The north wind says, "How did you do that?" And the sun responds, "It was easy. I lit the day with gentleness. I got my way." So think about yourself. How often are you being gentle? How often are you being like the sun? And how often are you being like the wind? So if you're like the wind most of the time, you're going to get resistance most of the time. So it's learning a balance about the wind and the sun. Okay, so let's look at adversary. An adversary is a force. It's a force. It's like having the belief that you want win-lose objective. In other words, you're going to win as the adult, and the kids are going to lose. That's the thinking about that. The emotions and thoughts of the child are ignored. They just are not important. And the relationship is not a priority. In other words, the parents would say, "Well, I don't care what you think about this, and I don't care what you feel. This is what's going to happen." This is the approach of an adversary. This causes tremendous distress in the relationship and conflict. And it's like, right now, I want power. I want you to do what I want, whether you want it or not. So this is an adversarial relationship. This is like the wind. So let's look at a more relationship of an ally. So an ally is more of soft power. Notice the word power. Power is still there. It's not that you're without power, but you're doing it in a way that you're going to both feel like you win. Now, when you're teenagers wanting to go out till midnight and you're saying, "No way, you can't go out till midnight," they might not feel happy about it, but it's the underlying belief that how can I help us both feel a winner in some way? The emotions are valued, thoughts are valued, the relationship is nourished. That's what you're thinking about. You're thinking long term. You're thinking, okay, this is the teenager. How do I build a connection now? How do I keep a connection now so that I can be the support they need when they're 18, 19, 20, 21? I would encourage you to think relationship first. What is what I'm about to say or do going to do to the relationship? Now, sometimes it might damage the relationship. But I think it's important to think mostly, how often can I stop myself when I'm going to damage it? Find another way. So that's what this whole course is about. How to find ways to build soft power. And that takes practice, because I'll tell you, what I know now is not the way I was when my daughter was younger. I had to really continually learn to use soft power. Anger's more my way, and being pushy, and so I had to work at this. So all the new scripts that I've learned, I love to share with parents. It's a script. It's a script in your head that needs to change so that you will be able to replace what you're thinking already and do something new. That's what it's all about. So the first step is, when you're just about to say something that's going to hurt the relationship, say nothing. If you're thinking, if I don't say something right now, then they're going to think I'm soft, or they're going to get away with it, stop and say nothing and think first. So we're going to do a little bit of practice. I'm going to I'm going to be sharing a little role play. I'm going to be sharing a little role play, and it's with, the first one will be where the mother is more like an adversary. And you'll hear the difference, a mother and a daughter. And then I'll go on and it'll be more like an ally. So see if you can hear the difference. Mom, Julie wouldn't talk to me at school today. Did you do something that made her mad? I don't know. Why do you think I did something? Well, there must be some reason for her being upset with you. Why do you take her side? Maybe someone's told a lie about me or to her, and so she's mad at me about that. You just don't understand. I'm not going to talk to you about it. The daughter walks off. I was just trying to help. So there we had an ineffective communication skill going on there, because the mother, right, is trying to help. She's using communication blocks, which we'll talk about in a moment. Let's look how it could be different. Mom, Julie wouldn't talk to me at school today. Wow, that's too bad. Yeah, I don't know why she was so mean. She wouldn't tell me. She's your good friend. I bet that was really hard today. The other girls took her side. I didn't have anyone to eat lunch with. Oh, honey, I don't know what to do. It's so hard when girlfriends fight. She's so important to you. What do you think I should do? Let's think about it together. Tell me more about what happened first. You see the difference? So the second time I'm being more like an ally, and I'm reflecting her feelings. I'm trying to be more empathetic. And the first one I was more interrogating and more of an adversarial relationship. Can you feel the difference? The second time I was more like an ally. You can learn this script. You can learn when you want to sound like an adversary to replace it. It takes practice and you can learn it. I want to tell you a story of a dad and his teenage daughter. This is a client I worked with. I not only do classes, I work individually with parents. And this is a father would really get upset with his daughter. There were a lot of things that were going on. And one day he caught her sneaking out. Now, we've been working together, and I've been working with him on managing his anger, realizing that that's a communication block. She's not going to talk, because what was happening, she would go off and storm off and not talk to him, and it was really, really difficult. So this time, he stayed calm. He expressed his fears. You know, honey, if I came home and I saw you gone, you weren't here, I'd be very upset and very scared about it. Now, he did this instead of yelling at her. Quit, what are you doing? Get back here. You can't do that. Instead, he remained calm. And as a result, she listened to him. And they had some dialogue. So the next day, the daughter told the stepmother that before she wouldn't talk to her dad because she was afraid of dad's anger. Wow. So because he eliminated the adversarial relationship, I'm going to control you, and the anger, she trusted him, and they could try to solve the problem together. Very, very beautiful experience. So one thing you'll take home is like, what am I doing that's creating adversarial relationship? How can I change that? So the third area that we want to work on is, the third area is how to eliminate walls and open dialogue. That is so important. First part is eliminate walls, and then we'll talk about how to actually open dialogue. I first want to talk to you a little bit about the brain, though. Give you some background information, because emotions and the mind, as you know, teenagers, very emotional, they get very flared, their rational brain doesn't work very well. So we have kind of two minds, the emotional mind and the rational mind. Now they're interconnected. They're separate, but they're also interconnected. And so I want to share a little bit about that, simply about what goes on in the mind. So I'm going to talk about like the prefrontal cortex is also the rational mind. The limbic system is the emotional mind. So you see that the prefrontal cortex is in the front of the brain, and the limbic system is more internally. And the limbic system is what we interact with the world from when we come into the world as a baby. So the limbic system, that's where our nonverbal cues are. Think about a baby. Baby gives cues, right? Cries, screams, does all these different things, and picks up nonverbal cues very carefully. That's where all the emotions are. And the sense of gut reaction, right? And safety, right? You see babies. If you scare a baby, they'd all cry. So we know when we come into life that we know our emotions. We know whether we feel safe and secure or not. And we know whether we feel connected. So feeling connection is crucial. And you notice our long-term memory is also in our emotional center. So all the emotions we've had from birth or perhaps before are in our long-term memory. So connection comes first. So it's important for us to emotionally feel connected before we can think well. So we've got the connection. Now the emotional part of the brain is pretty much in control the first year, perhaps the first year, year and a half, age 1 or 1.5 or so, the prefrontal cortex really starts to develop. Now, they've done more and more brain research, and they've discovered that this prefrontal cortex might not get fully developed, well, it doesn't in everybody, but maybe age 25. So think about how old your teenagers are. So my daughter's 24, and I see amazing growth, even in the last couple of years, amazing growth. So think about if you have a 15-year-old, and that child has still another 10 years to develop attention, reasoning, judgment, planning, impulse control, and short-term memory is all in the prefrontal cortex. So know that, have confidence that they will keep growing. They just need time, and they're going to need your support to keep growing. So the more emotionally connected they are, the more you have empathy with your child, the more they're going to be open to your guidance. Remember, connection first. So connection first, and then thinking follows. So the example of the dad, instead of yelling at his daughter about, was trying to sneak out, he got emotional connection. And then they were actually able to talk about it. I bet none of you make good decisions when you're emotionally upset. And I bet a bunch of you try to make decisions when you're upset. I would suggest not doing that. Know that it shuts down. When you have emotional overload, when you're feeling afraid and anxious and hurt, all these different feelings, yourself and your teenagers, when you're feeling emotionally upset, it's like an overload, and you cannot think right. It just doesn't work. So it's like when the emotional mind is all broken, the thinking stops. The chemicals that create the thinking, there's some chemical reaction goes on. It doesn't work right. So when your child's upset, do not ask them why they did something. They do not know why, because then you're trying to ask them to go to their prefrontal cortex. You're trying to ask them to be logical and reasonable, and they're emotional. So we must connect emotionally first. That's what our teenagers need. Regardless of whether you're trying to set a limit or a rule, the emotional connection is so important to have greater influence. So we're going to talk about a few blocks, but what I want you to know is when you block, so when your teenager is expressing something and you say something in a way that makes them feel hurt, then, and they stop, they shut down, they don't talk to you anymore, you don't understand, I don't want to talk with you, you know, you're stupid, I hate you, all of that. It's helpful if you then say, what have I said? That's block communication. Have I commanded? Have I questioned? Have I made them try to placate, try to make their feelings go away, to make them feel better? All of those are examples of actually causing a wall to go and a shutdown to happen in your communication. And I know all of you have experienced that over and over again. You know, right? You know what that feels like. And parents usually feel like, what happened? I'm just trying to help. And they're getting mad at you. Leave me alone. And you're thinking, I'm just trying to help. When I learned about communication blocks, and I'm still learning, I'm still working on them, this was so crucial to my being able to break through the walls. And there are other examples of them. There's giving advice, distracting, being a know-it-all. You can moralize. You can also talk about yourself, Me Tooism, psychologizing, trying to analyze, which is what I have to be careful of. These are other blocks, and we'll go through all of these blocks when we do the full 7-week course. You'll learn all of them. You'll start to analyze which ones do you do. Different people do different blocks, and it's important to understand which ones we do and which ones we don't do, because you don't do all of them. All right. I'm going to give you a few examples of these three, the interrogating, commanding, and placating. And listen to these. Here's the teen. And then the mom's going to respond in an interrogating way. Teen. I don't like my stupid teacher. She's mean to me. Parent. What did you do to make him yell? You must have done something wrong. Interrogating. See, there's a question there. And all of a sudden the child, what happens, and the child feels like hurt because you're insinuating they messed up. Boom, right away the wall goes up. Here's commanding. I just can't do this. It's too hard. The parent. Stop complaining. I know you can do it. Now there, the parent might feel like they're trying to encourage, but the underlying hurtful message that causes the block is that the child doesn't have the right to decide how to handle their problems, and you haven't connected with them emotionally. Let's look at the third one, placating. Oh my gosh, so many parents think they want to try to take away their child's upset feelings, make them feel better, but ultimately that hurts. Here's the teen. My best friend can't come to my party. He's no friend of mine. The adult. Honey, it'll be okay. You'll have fun with all your other friends. Now, you don't understand is usually the response because you're saying you don't have the right to your feelings. Usually parents do this because as a parent, oh my gosh, we're so connected to our kids that when they suffer, we suffer. And you know how we want to take away our suffering is by trying to change their suffering. And I believe instead we have to become stronger and we have to become able to hold on to that suffering that we feel and not let it affect how we're interacting with our kids. So that the key when you have an upset child, as long as you're calm and you're not upset, is to actually offer them warmth and safety and confidence. What happens when an upset person gets those feelings from another person? The tension releases and they're actually able to think better. Listening builds intelligence. What that means is when you listen to them and you let go and you help them let go of their frustrations, their upsetness, even if it's at you, which is hard when you're the target, then they're able to think better. And I think of a pressure cooker. So if a pressure cooker has a release valve, if you're commanding, interrogating, placating, you're pushing down on that release valve so their emotions can't come out. What's going to happen? It's just going to blow up. Boom! Gets bigger and bigger. So that's why parents see whining kids. They keep whining and whining, often because they don't feel heard. So we want to be able to do some listening rather than shutting them down. So try to express some empathy. You have to do this with meaning. Really, if you're just doing it as a strategy to get them to open up, they're going to feel it. So we have to really work on putting aside our judgment, our criticism, our blocks, commanding, interrogating, and instead learn to listen. Some things that are helpful. Every child's different. So you pick which works for you. You might say something like, "I'm sorry to hear that," or, "Oh, you seem frustrated," or, "Now that sounds like a real problem," or, "I can see why you're upset." That's a tricky one because some kids are like, "You don't understand," so be careful of that one. "Oh, it's hard to know what to do." So if you want to build influence and connection with your kids, it's important to learn how to respond empathetically. I'm not saying reflective listening. I'm not saying repeat what they said, but just to be there, to kind of listen to them in a better way is more important. All right, let me give, we have a little bit, I'm just going to go another 5 minutes or so. I want to share a couple examples of keeping communication open. Here's what the adult's going to say, and then I'm going to say some different responses. And as I'm responding as the adult, think about which one of these statements is actually trying to connect empathetically. Which one are you not thinking about yourself and you're getting out of your the advice you want to give because you're just burning to give advice. I know what my child should do. I've been through this and I don't want my child to struggle and I want to fix it for him. All of that. We need to try to put it aside. It's work. I tell you, I've had to work at it. You have to continually work at it to control your mind, and we can do it. You can do it. So here we go. Here's the teenager. "I don't like my stupid teacher. She's mean to me." "What have you done to make her mad at you?" Or, "I know what we should do. Let's get together and talk with her to solve this problem." Or, "Don't be ridiculous. Of course your teacher likes you." Or, "I bet it's hard to be in a class when you feel unfairly treated." Now, for those of you who have the handouts, you'll notice that I've got them mixed up. The first line should be the teen and the other line should be the adult. Sorry about that. So on this one, there's numerous communication blocks. And the one that was most connecting is, "I bet it's hard to be in a class when you feel unfairly treated." So you're not saying how they're feeling. You're kind of guessing it, that that's a possibility, that maybe they would feel that way, that it would feel that way with somebody. Here's this another one. The child comes home. "I just can't do this. It's too hard." Teen might respond. The adult might respond, "Stop complaining. It's not too hard for you." Or, "Just do a little bit. Take a break and then do more." Another one could be, "You seem frustrated with this work." Or, "It isn't as bad as it seems. You can do it." Now, here, "It isn't as bad as it seems. You can do it." It depends. If a child responds negatively to that means they feel like you haven't at all understood them. And so be careful about that. And so what might be a little bit more helpful is, "You seem frustrated with this work." That is kind of putting it out there. The child can say yes or no, depending, how they want to respond. They might respond, "Yes, it is really, I am really frustrated." If they keep getting upset, that's actually great. You're actually letting them release. So please don't think you respond with empathy once and that's it, and then they're going to be all, they're going to be fine. Hold your breath, let it go, and then just be able to keep hearing the emotions that come out in the connection. So important to connect with our children. So, so important to connect with them. And I continually worked on that with my daughter. And many, many times over the phone, I would have to be doing this, especially when she was away at college and even as a young adult. Learning how to connect with her was so crucial. So as a kind of a summary, blocking hurts. So when you say something or do something that they feel hurtful of, please be aware of that. Please don't say, well, my child should just change. Rather, what am I doing? What am I doing that's creating the hurt? So blocking always hurts. The thing that helps the most is listening. Listening first. Now, you still need to set limits, and many times you have to limit how much you want to listen. Some will go on and on and on. It's okay to say, I can listen for 10 minutes. Put limits and boundaries. Put boundaries around what you're comfortable with. And if you're not at a point to listen, then please don't. You can say, right now, if you're emotionally charged yourself, right now I can't listen. Listen, I'll listen to you in a half an hour. Let me calm down, and then I'll be able to listen to you. So listening is what's crucial. So we want to be thinking about building those bridges. Building bridges. That's what an ally does all the time. Think about, how are you building your bridges? What are you doing? So that would be one of the things I would love to talk with you about when we do our 20-minute free coaching session that I'm offering you. And I know some of you have signed up for it. And there's times this afternoon, there's times on Wednesday and Thursday. So we can continue our conversation about this, about how you're going to implement this, all these things that you've learned today. I've thrown a lot at you in a short period of time. So again, I want to encourage you and offer you an opportunity to work with me starting the end of January, give you some time to practice these skills. Week after week, same will be Tuesdays, lunchtime. We'll be going through each week different skill you'll be learning so that you can continue your growth process. And there are many things you're going to be learning through this, our time together. So I want to leave you with some final words, is that teens learn best from a parent who is an ally. So teach them how to grow. Here's the thing. When they're having problems always equal struggle. But struggle's important. We must let them struggle. Too many parents are enabling children. Too many parents are not letting them struggle. But if you're next to them, if you're struggling with them, they can use you as a source of encouragement, as a source of guidance when they're open to it, so they can grow. And from this growth, then wisdom grows. And from this wisdom becomes a successful life. This is the key, I believe, to creating a healthy relationship with our kids, is we think, I'm here as an ally, I'm here to support you. They feel that. They feel we're on their side. We're not against them. We're not always judging them and evaluating them, and we're not always looking that they aren't an adult yet, and why aren't they like an adult yet, and that criticism, and we let that go. And instead, we look, here's a young person growing and developing. Can I be with them? And can I be here for them to help them be successful in their life? So the answer is, your teen crazy, or am I? There's some craziness going on in everybody. The more we learn skills to become calm and control our craziness, the happier we'll be, and the more we'll be able to feel connected and have that vision, that joyful relationship, along with some spice added in there, with your teenager. So thank you very much. Appreciate you being here. And I don't see So thank you very much, and I hope to talk to anybody in the 20-minute coaching session. Appreciate you being here with us today. Thank you.